Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Asmad Gurubhyo Namaha. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishwaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Yomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Shri Medha Dakshinamurti Swamine Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Namaste everyone once again.
Namaste Guruji, pranam.
Namaste, namaste, pranam Guruji.
Those who have joined just now, I had actually made an announcement before the prayers that please mark your attendance going to the chat box and registering your name. Because from today onwards, next 3-4 classes, I'm going to monitor the attendance. Who are all regularly attending, who are really interested in learning Vivekachudamani. A lot of 40 people have registered, but half of them don't turn up to any class till now. That's my observation. Every class we have been having 22, 23 people only. So there are a lot of people, almost 50%, who have registered, who are not attending. So I would like to actually filter them and leave them free to pursue whatever they want to pursue in their life, and not burden them with all this Vedantic knowledge and all that. So that way, it will help me if you register your name so that I will know who are all the persons who are attending. 2-3 classes, I will see that. I mean, many I know because they have been my students in other classes, but some new people are there, so I may not be able to recognize them. So that's why if you register your name, it will be easy for me to mark the attendance. Okay. Thank you. So with that, we will enter Vivekachudamani. We were seeing the 7th shloka in our list. Adhikarinamaashaste alasiddhir visheshatah upayadeshakaladhyah santyasmin sahakarinah. So what this shloka says in brief is that accomplishment of the desired goal, whatever we aim in our life, it need not necessarily be Vedanta only. Any field, if we want to attain the desired goal, accomplish the desired goal, it calls for a qualified person. There should be certain qualification. If your goal is to become a doctor, then right from the school stage, you must have certain qualification. You must have studied certain subjects and all that. If you can't just study commerce and then become a doctor. So similarly for Vedanta also, certain basic qualifications are required to pursue this spiritual pursuit. Then what the Acharya says is that there are other factors also involved apart from the qualifications. For example, place, time, etc. But they are all auxiliary means in this pursuit. They're subsidiary to the qualification. So as they say, if you are in the right place in the right time, even if you don't have the qualification, you can't pursue Vedanta. But if you have the right qualification, Even if you are not in the right place at the right time, it doesn't matter, you can still manage to pursue Vedanta. That is the gist of this sloka. And as we were discussing in the last class, from this sloka onwards, Acharya wants to elaborately talk about the qualifications or requirements of a student. What should the student possess to enter into the spiritual pursuit? Of course, broadly, Shankaracharya says you should prepare the mind in such a way that the mind should have fourfold qualifications to receive this knowledge of Vedanta. Even if the student takes a long time to acquire this, it is worth the time and effort. Because Jnana Yoga will work instantly for a qualified student. If a student is not qualified, any amount of Jnana Yoga will not work. Therefore, a prepared mind is like a dry piece of wood, which will immediately ignite when fire is applied. Fire of Jnana Yoga is lit. A prepared mind will immediately get enlightened. They will get the message of the Upanishads. And an unprepared mind will be like a wet piece of wood, where if you apply the Jnana Yoga fire, only smoke will come. You can't get any fire in that wet piece of wood. So therefore, prepared mind is the first important thing that we must understand. And prepared mind means what? A qualified mind. And therefore he says, Phala Siddhihi. Siddhi here means accomplishment of the result of the inquiry into the self. Phalam here refers to Jnana Yogasya phalam, Atma Vicharasya phalam, the result of Jnana Yoga or self-inquiry. And what is that? First you get Jnana and finally Moksha. Again the phalam is given in two stages. First you get knowledge, just knowledge, intellectual knowledge. And then when you assimilate that knowledge, abide in that knowledge, then you get moksha. So two stages are there. And accomplishment of this fruit of inquiry, the result of this self-inquiry, ashaste. Ashaste means here depends upon, is conditioned by adhikarinam, a well-prepared student. We have seen the word adhikari in the very first inaugural class. I had explained who is an adhikari, right? So the word adhikari means one who is fit, qualified, prepared. And this is the primary qualification. He uses the word Visheshataha, primarily, specifically, especially. So, Adhikari Visheshataha Ashaste means the accomplishment of the fruit of inquiry is primarily dependent upon the student. And the primary condition for successful inquiry is what? Mental preparation, acquiring the qualification. And as I said, there are other factors also which are contributory causes. They are also important. But they are only supportive or secondary only. Upaya, he says. Upaya means supportive causes, auxiliary causes. Like what? Desha kaladhyaha. Desha means an ideal place like a Gurukulam, etc. I mean, Swami Paramathananda says that, we cannot conduct a Vedanta class in an airport lounge where hundreds of people are moving around, isn't it? Why Vedanta? Any class you cannot conduct. But Vedanta is more specifically because it requires a focused mind. So for Vedanta, you can conduct that in a quiet study room rather. Or in an ashrama or a gurukulam, where the atmosphere is ideally designed for Vedantic study. So this appropriate atmosphere is called desha. That's useful, but not compulsory. A grihastha who cannot go to an ashram, who cannot get himself away from his grihastha duties for a continued period of time, can still pursue Vedanta. All that he needs to do is be little more disciplined in his life, disciplined in time management. All that he needs to do is to find a place, a calm place in the house itself somewhere where he will not be disturbed for an hour or something every day. To go there and do the Shravanam. So ideal situation is an ashram or a gurukulam, but that is not compulsory. You can pursue it even sitting at your home. That is why he says it's a secondary factor. It is not necessarily a most important factor. And the other aspect is a sannyasi going to the ashram, which has got advantages over other locations, as we have seen, quiet place and all that. He can also gain, study and get knowledge. But if his mind is not prepared, even if he goes to the ashram, he will not gain the knowledge. Therefore, that's why he says, these are secondary. Primary thing is preparedness of the mind. So such external conditions, mental preparation is the primary requirement. External conditions are secondary. Similarly, time. Kala. Kala means ideal time. Normally what we say, early morning time is considered to be ideal because we are fresh, had a good rest overnight, mind is fresh, not disturbed by any external problems. That time is definitely very useful. That's why children are told, especially subjects like maths and all that, early morning get up and learn maths and practice maths. It will just go and settle very quickly in the mind. So time is very right time or appropriate time or a conducive time is useful. But for that matter, we cannot say one should study only in Brahma Muhurta, then only you will get knowledge. You have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and then 4:30 you study, then only you will get knowledge. That is not the situation. Therefore, even an appropriate time, early morning time is useful, contributes all right, but they are only what he says, sahakarinaha. Sahakarinaha means supportive causes. If you can get the proper atmosphere like an ashram and an early morning time, you are used to get up and then study, very good, excellent. But that is not the primary concern. Primary concern is with all these things being there, if your mind is not prepared, then nothing will happen. You cannot pursue Vedanta. You cannot pursue the self-inquiry. So Desha Kala Adya. Adya he includes because etc. Adya means etc. And etc. means what? It should include more than one or two items, right? So we can say the four ashramas like Brahmacharya ashrama, Grihastha ashrama, Vanaprastha ashrama, Sannyasa ashrama. Learning everything Brahmacharya ashrama is good because again you are young, you have got a fresh mind, sharp mind, very quickly reactive mind. Everything as a student, as the student age, as they call it, things you learn for. That's why the learning is done in that period when you are till about end of teenage, you can say 18 years or something, 19 years. Then Grihastha you enter. Grihastha has got its own problems. There are a lot of obstacles will come in your learning. Vanaprastha again you can go after you are fulfilled the Grihastha responsibilities and duties. Sannyasa ashrama. These are all. I mean, there are in these ashramas, there are some ashramas which are more conducive to Vedanta learning than other ashramas. Then once age in life, you start learning Vedanta when you are, going to the dentist for replacing your teeth or putting dentures. Eyesight is going weak, you have to get cataract operation. You are not able to hear, so you have to get a hearing aid. At that stage, if you start learning Vedanta, it will not be of not much use. So again, that age, right age, you learn all these things, stage in life, gender. It is not that only if you are a male, you can learn Vedanta, females cannot learn Vedanta, not like that. So all these things are all contributory factors, but they are only secondary in nature. So irrespective of whether one is a male or a female, one can get knowledge and liberation, provided he or she prepares the mind and gains the requisite qualifications. Even among the four ashramas, actually speaking, two ashramas are said to be very ideal for Vedic study. Brahmacharya ashrama and Sannyasa ashrama. In Brahmacharya ashrama, they study the Veda Purva Bhaga, Karma Kanda, and Sannyasa ashrama, they study the Veda Anta Bhaga, which is the Upanishads. So again, those are all ideal conditions, not necessary conditions. So that's why we say they are no doubt ideal, but they are not compulsory. A grihastha can still manage to study and gain knowledge, but after getting the requisite qualifications. Maybe that to get the requisite qualification, a grihastha will have to work harder than a brahmachari. Possibility is there. It may not always be the case. But the point being made is remaining a grihastha, liberation is possible. And this Lord Krishna himself confirms this in the Bhagavad Gita. King Janaka is a classic example who proved to be a great grihastha jnani. So it is not that grihasthas have not got jnanam. In the past also, lot of grihasthas have gained jnana. Therefore, desha kala adyaha. These are all subordinate to a well-prepared mind in the order of importance. Now there will be a logical question. Okay. Primary causes, preparation of the mind. What are those primary causes? What are the parameters that a student should take care of? What are the requisite qualifications? So Shankaracharya starts explaining that in the next sloka. We will chant the sloka. I will chant it rather. Sadhananyatra chatvari katithani manishibihi yeshu satsveva sannishtaha yadabhavena siddhyati. The Anvaya for the sloka is Atra Manishibihi Chatvari Sadhanani Katithani Yeshu Satsu Yeva Sannishta. You can add Siddhyati. Yadabhave na Siddhyati. A nice prayoga is coming in this sloka. I will explain that. So the word meaning we will first see. Atra, in this context. What context? In the context of self-inquiry and or scriptural inquiry. Because self-inquiry or scriptural inquiry is synonymous. There is no self-inquiry without spiritual inquiry. There is no spiritual inquiry without self-inquiry. Because the Upanishads, what they teach the reality of the self. Therefore, Atra here means with regard to this self-inquiry, which means with regard to the spiritual inquiry, Atma Vichara Vishaye, or we can even say Atra can be interpreted as, because he is talking about Adhikaritvam, Atra Adhikaritva Vishaye, with regard to the preparedness of the student in the context of self-inquiry, both meanings we can take. Manishibihi, by those who have the ascertainment of the vision of the Shruti, by the Rishis who have given us the Vedanta Shastra. Chatvari, 4. Sadhanani, the preparatory disciplines for making one qualified. Katithani, are said or told. Yeshu Satsu Eva, only when they are present. Sannishta Siddhyati. Sannishta basically means firmness. We can interpret that as firm knowledge. That is the knowledge of the truth, free from vagueness, doubts, etc. Siddhyati takes place. Yad abhave, in the absence of which na siddhyati, does not take place. This is the word meaning. So, till now, Adi Shankara has made 4 important points about spiritual pursuit to gain moksha or liberation. What are they? The means of liberation is self-knowledge alone. He said, there is no second path. Na anyaf panta vidyate ayanaya, says Purusha Suktam. There is only one path, which is knowledge, self-knowledge. Second point was the self-knowledge has to be attained only through self-inquiry. That also point he made. And the third point he made was the inquiry has to be conducted with the help of a guru and shastram and not independently. Guru and shastram are complementary. Without one, the other will not be effective. If shastram is there, but guru is not there, it will not work. Again, the guru is there, but it does not base his teaching on the shastram, then also it will not work. Because there are many gurus. Their teaching is not based on what the Upanishads say. They pick up here and there from Puranas and Itihasas and all that, and they call themselves guru and they start teaching rather. That is not going to lead to any moksha or anything. The moksha package which is defined or laid down in the Upanishads cannot be compromised. That is the only way you can reach moksha or attain moksha. Even the guru may not refer to any textbook, it doesn't matter. But if his teaching is based on the Shastra, the teaching will work. Therefore, Guru and Shastram both are complementary to each other, both are compulsory. Both are required for self-inquiry. So that's the third point. And the fourth point is accomplishment of the desired end, especially calls for a qualified person. That is what we saw in the previous sloka. And what Acharya is now going to do is that he divides this qualification into two types. In fact, he has already done that. We saw that primary and secondary, isn't it? In this verse, basically, and also following verses, he will talk about the primary qualifications, which are fourfold qualifications known as sadhana chatushtayam. Chatwari, he says, right? In the sloka, which he will elaborate hereafter. And the secondary qualification like Desha Kaladhyaha, place of inquiry and all that which we saw, that we have already discussed rather. So now we come to the primary requirement, primary qualifications, which are going to be elaborated. So in this sloka, he just gives a very general introduction, rather, headline, right? As they call it. In the news and all that we see, first headlines, and then they will elaborate the news. So he says, Atra Chatwari Sadhanani Manishinaha Katitani. These fourfold qualifications are enumerated by the rishis in the scriptures, in the Upanishad themselves. And since they are primary, only if they are there, the teaching will get converted into knowledge. In their absence, even the best teaching coming from the Lord himself will not be fruitful. That is why a lot of people study Bhagavad Gita, but nothing enters because there is a basic lacuna. They have not prepared their mind. Without preparation, if you read anything, you will not get that, you will not understand anything. Only if these qualifications are present in the student, the communication will be complete and productive. And in the Vedic scriptures, the four qualifications are mentioned for a person who is desirous of scriptural inquiry. But we must note that these four qualifications which we'll talk about, they should be there to a reasonable degree. It is not necessary to have 100%. Of course, if you have 100%, it would be ideal. But these days, hardly anybody will have 100% of these qualifications. It's like saying, one should have a reasonable health to attend these classes. That does not mean that one should have the right blood pressure, the right sugar levels, right heartbeat rate and all that, right? All of them need not be 100% perfect. Reasonably good health means such a health which will enable the person to regularly attend the classes and pursue the study without any health-related obstacles. So just as a reasonable physical health is required for Vedantic study, a reasonable degree of sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, the fourfold qualification, also should be there at the optimum level, rather, enough to receive the knowledge. Of course, it's a different matter that most people who do not have this qualification, first of all, they will not come to Vedantic study at all. But if somebody ventures into the Vedantic study, it will not be effective. So one need not have 100% of this qualification. Nobody will have 100% also, rather. And the interesting aspect is With a reasonable degree of this qualification, you enter Vedantic studies. And as even you are pursuing the studies, that will itself improve the qualifications. That's the beauty, rather. Therefore, when the qualifications are there at the optimum level, he says, Yeshu satsveva satsuyeva sannishta bhavati. Sannishta siddhyati. Only the ones abiding in that succeed. Sannishta here means abidance in jnanam or abidance in atma. As sannishta can be taken in two ways. Good and firm abidance or assimilation of teaching, or it can be taken as firm abidance in Brahman also. Both you can take. Actually speaking, both are same thing only. But acharyas would like to, some acharyas, they say, no, you have to take it like this, you have to take it like this. We are neutral. So to us, it doesn't matter. Eventually, when you start abiding in Brahman, all these things will become irrelevant. So we don't argue, okay, you want to say Sannishta means abidance and assimilation of the teaching, very good. Or you want to say abidance in Brahman, that also is okay for us. Whatever you want, you take. As long as you get the gist of what Acharya wants to say, that is fine. All other are matters of details. And it is possible, Yeshu Satsu Eva, only if Sadhana Chatushti Sampatti is there. Then he says, Yad abhave na siddhyati. Here Acharya introduces one of the prakriyas used in Vedanta teaching. This type of presentation we will come across in the Upanishads. Because many sentences, when we study and understand, it will create a certain doubt in our mind. If, of course, it's a thinking mind. And for Vedantic study, you require a very critically thinking mind. You must never swallow what the Upanishads say blindly, or even what the Guru says blindly. The more sharp your intellect is, the more questions it will come. Oh, Upanishad is saying that you should do this in this manner. What if it is done in a different manner? All these kind of questions should be raised if it occurs to you and get the answer. Then only it will become a doubtless knowledge. And for this purpose, one of the prakriyas Vedanta uses, which Acharya is using in this sloka, it is called Anvaya Vyatireka logic. Co-presence and co-absence logic. If X is there, then Y will be there. But if X is not there, Y will not be there. It's all Nyaya Shastra. You have to, when you study Vedanta, you get into all these things. How to think logically, what is logic? We think that something which is reasonable, appeals to our intellect is logic. That is not logic. Logic, there are rules. What is logic? For example, one of the Anumana means what? Inference. Is what? Example is given in the Shastra. If there is smoke, there should be fire. This is an example, right? So if X is present, Y should be there. If there is smoke, there should be fire. But then there are two possibilities. Can there be smoke without fire? Can there be fire without smoke? These two questions will arise. So immediately when we apply this Anvaya Vyatireka logic, they will say, if there is smoke, there should be fire. If there is no smoke, then there is no fire. That means what? Smoke and fire are interlinked. To make that point very clear, this presentation is called Anvaya Vyatireka logic. Co-presence and co-absence. So the first one, Yeshu Satsu Eva Sannishta is the Anvaya, co-presence. If the fourfold, Yeshu refers to the fourfold qualifications. Yeshu Satsu Eva Sannishta, only if these qualifications are present, assimilation of the teachings and abidance in Brahman will happen. This is the co-presence or Anvaya argument. If A is present, then alone B will happen. Then he gives the Vyatireka, co-absence. Yadabhave na siddhyati. Yadabhave means sadhana chatushtaya abhave. Sadhana nam abhave. If these fourfold qualifications are absent or deficient, sannishta na siddhyati. Na siddhyati, he says, we can supply sannishta. That means one cannot get jnanam if these qualifications are absent or deficient. And usually, this Anvaya Vyatireka Prakriya is used in order to emphasize the importance of something in gaining something and to highlight that nothing else will work. Don't try any other methodology. That is the prakriya which the Upanishads use. One of the prakriya. Hundreds of prakriyas are there. When we study the Upanishads and then study the other prakarana granthas, more advanced prakarana granthas, then we will come to know how many prakriyas are there. Our mind also will be tuned to logical thinking. So this is the Anvaya Vyatireka Prakriya. We know there are students, and I personally know, who have been attending Vedanta classes for a number of years. Very diligently they will attend all classes of Swami Paramarthananda. Either they will download from the internet and listen to these talks, or they will personally go and attend the talks in Adayar or Basant Nagar or wherever it is. They will buy a lot of books and read innumerable books. They will do all this. While listening, it will appear that they have understood everything. In fact, they themselves tell me, when we are in the class, it appears we have understood everything, but later on, we find that everything is not retained in the memory rather. So after a while, all the learning vanishes. And they are also unable to apply the teachings in their day-to-day life. So many people, in fact, why I should talk about others, I myself was like that once upon a time. Maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Came to the conclusion, this Vedanta is all wonderful in theory, but doesn't work in practical life. It will not work. It will not work for those people because deficiency of sadhana chatushtaya. You see, as we get older, our internal systems also, what they call it, the absorption of all the minerals, vitamins, B12 and all that, they also slow down. The body is not able to absorb the vitamins which are there in the food that we eat. That's why if you take if you test the old people, the report will show vitamin D deficiency, vitamin B12 deficiency, this deficiency, that deficiency, so many deficiencies are there. Of course, the doctors will prescribe some sort of supplements and all for that. protein cannot be absorbed. Even though you say, I'm eating a lot of protein, it cannot be absorbed in the body because what? Deficiency. Similarly, Vedantic teaching cannot be absorbed by a mind which is deficient in preparedness, deficient in this sadhana chatushtaya. Therefore, even before listening to Vedanta and coming for the classes and all that, one must understand that if I have the required qualification, then it will be easy for me to attend these classes. Otherwise, I must first acquire these qualifications to the best extent possible and then start attending. Then you will see a sea of difference in terms of understanding, in terms of assimilating, in terms of appreciating the knowledge. So that is the point that Acharya wanted to emphasize in this sloka. Okay. Now we will enter the detailed discussions of these fourfold qualifications. We will start from verse number 9. Verse number 9 in our list and verse number 19 in the original list. Okay. आधौ नित्य वस्तु विवेक परिगण्यते इह मुत्रा फलभोग इह मुत्र फलभोग विरागः तदंतरम समाधिषट्क संपत्तिः मुमुक्षुत्वम इति स्फुटम. As I told you, in the beginning, in the inaugural class itself, different shlokas have got different meters, and some shlokas read like prose. It is very difficult to put them in any meter. You won't get any tune or anything. Some shlokas are, 2 lines are there. In some shlokas, 3 lines are there. And that is why many scholars say that this is not a work of Adi Shankaracharya, because he would not have done such a thing. We have discussed that. We don't need to worry about who has written this. For our practical purposes, it is Adi Shankaracharya's teaching. That's all. Okay. So, Anvaya of this sloka is Adhau Nitya Vastu Vivekah Pariganyate Tadanantaram Viragah Iha Mutra Phalabhogah Samadhi Shatka Sampattihi Mumukshutvam Iti Sputam. This is the Anvaya. Adau, the first and foremost qualification. Nitya Vastu Vivekah, the discriminative understanding between what is eternal and what is time bound, what is Nityam and what is Anityam. Tadanantaram, after that is what? After differentiating or discriminating between the eternal and the ephemeral, viragaha. Viragaha, we define it as dispassion or detachment. Dispassion or detachment towards what? Iha amutra phalabhogaha. Longing for the enjoyment of objects here and hereafter. Samadhi Shatka Sampattihi, the 6-fold qualifications like Shama, etc. Mumukshutvam, the longing for moksha. It is sputam. Sputam means it is clear. We should understand that this is clear from the scriptures. That's what Acharya says. So the 4 means for making one qualified is thus clear from the scriptures. First, the discriminative understanding between what is eternal and what is time-bound. Then the absence of longing for enjoyment of pleasures here and hereafter. Then the 6-fold qualifications like Shama, Dhamma, etc. We'll see all that in detail. And finally, longing for moksha. Tattva-bodha students can easily relate to all these things. We have done this in detail in Tattva-bodha. So, in this verse, Adi Shankara enumerates these fourfold qualifications which are prescribed in the scriptures. Mind you, this is not Adi Shankara, Dr. Adi Shankara giving you a prescription on his own. He is just telling that this is what is the scriptures say, the Upanishads say. These qualifications, if you don't have, don't come to Upanishads. Of course, he will define each one of them in the following verses. And we will see the details later. So here, among the fourfold qualifications, the Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka is reckoned first. A discriminative understanding with reference to what is Nitya, Nitya means eternal, and what is Anitya, which is temporary, time-bound. So, discriminative understanding, Viveka means discriminative understanding with reference to this Nitya and Anitya is called Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. So, it is an ascertainment of what is time-bound and what cannot be eternal. And that is the meaning that we have to take here because we are talking about qualifications here. And the very fact that Nitya Anitya Viveka is mentioned as the foremost qualification itself presupposes that we do not have this discriminative understanding between what is permanent or eternal and what is impermanent or ephemeral. If you know both, what is Nitya and what is Anitya, then you don't require the Shastra. Shastra knows us better than we know ourselves. That's why this first qualification Shastra gives. First, try to understand in the spiritual path what is permanent, what is impermanent. Hey, Manusha, because all along your orientation is you are taking what is impermanent as permanent, and that is the root cause of all your problems. At the back of your mind, you know that it is impermanent, but still, when that goes away, you sit and cry. Is it not stupidity? Ask anyone, your relatives, your friends, your parents, everybody, are they permanent? Everybody will say, no, they are not permanent. Correct? But when one of them goes away or some of them go away, why are you lamenting then? You knew that they are not permanent. They will have to go one day. So they've gone. Why are you sitting and crying, beating your chest? Ah, God left me without any support and all that kind of. What is there to cry about? So when you come to Vedanta, you must be very clear. This Viveka should be there. For that matter, anything that is there, we come across, all are impermanent things. Everything has got a date of birth and the date of death. Swami Paramatmananda says, biggest truth. It's a big truth. What is big? Born is gone. That is the truth. Whatever is born will go. So therefore, this is the first thing that we have to understand. And according to the Shastra, the entire universe is classified or divided into two things, which are Nitya, Anitya, Vastu. Vastu means a thing or an entity. Nitya Vastu, as I said, eternal entity, which we will see later is called Atma or Brahman, the absolute reality. Anitya Vastu means all impermanent things, ephemeral entities. In fact, everything in the creation, every being in the creation, even our own selves, our body, mind, sense complex, physical body, Sukshma Sharira and all, they will all come under Anitya Vastu only. Therefore, what is non-eternal, what is temporary, what is impermanent, it is very easy to know. All that we acquire, all that we gain is bound by time. It will be lost. Either you will lose them or they will lose you. It is not eternal. We should register this in our mind very clearly, and we should keep the awareness of this difference throughout our life. Now the question is, if everything around is a Anitya Vastu, then what is Nitya Vastu? Is there something really called Nitya Vastu? Is the question, logical question, anybody with any intelligent person will ask. He says, I have never come across any Nitya Vastu. And Shastra says there is a Nitya Vastu. What is that? The answer is very simple. In and through all Anitya Vastus, Nitya Vastu is present. Without the Nitya Vastu, Anitya Vastu cannot exist. Anitya Vastu cannot be sentient. But unfortunately, we fail to recognize that Nitya Vastu within the Anitya Vastu. Let us understand this with an example. And later you can apply this example to everything around you and understand what is Nitya Vastu. And this example, I call it the journey of a seed. You know, seed of a plant or a tree, seed, agricultural seed. When we see a seed, how do we describe it? Suppose somebody asks, what is this? Showing you a seed. What is this? What we say? This is a seed. The seed is. Bijam asti. We say, right? Then we sow the seed and it sprouts into a plant. Then what do we say? The plant is. Sasyam asti. Then the plant becomes a tree. And we say the tree is vrikshaha asti. Then the tree is cut and we have a big log of wood and we say log of wood is kashtam asti. Then we make a table out of the wood and we say table is pitika asti. Suppose the table is destroyed in a fire and is turned into ashes. Then we say ash is bhasmam asti. Now, in this example of the journey of a seed, if you observe, during the course of this journey of a small seed, it has continuously changed its form and name, isn't it? One starting it was called a seed, then the same seed when it sprouted was called a plant, then it was called a tree, then it was called a log of wood, etc., etc., table, ash, everything. Name and form kept on changing. But what did not change? Asti, isness did not change. Whenever we are referring to a different name or form, we were saying is asti, is asti, is asti. That was continuously there. It was common. That did not change. So, what changes its name and form is Anitya Vastu, which is subject to modification and destruction. And the one thing that has not changed at all throughout and that is easiness. The easiness continues in and through all changes. Even when the table is destroyed in a fire, the easiness continues. Therefore, the easiness is permanent, cannot be destroyed. And it is that easiness, we call it Sat, pure existence, the only reality. Therefore, in and through all our experiences, in and through all the objects that we experience, we must be able to cognitively separate the name and form of the object, which are impermanent, which are ephemeral, which are subject to change, from the pure existence of the objects, which is common to that object throughout. The Sat component of the object, the easiness of the object, which is eternal, permanent, and not subject to change. This we must understand. This is what is called Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha. Therefore, Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha is considered to be the first and foremost requirement of a spiritual seeker. And this qualification is required even to fix our secular goals of life, fix our priorities properly. It is called Vivekaha, discriminative faculty. We can call it discrimination also, not in the negative sense, discrimination, but differentiation. Pariganyate means enumerated or stated in the scriptures. Therefore, what type of attitude should I develop towards these two entities, Nitya and Anitya Vastu? What attitude should I have towards Nitya Vastu? What is the attitude I should have toward Anitya Vastu? This I should clearly understand and gradually build upon that. And once you have used your Viveka and understood what is non-eternal or ephemeral or impermanent, and also understand that you cannot expect permanent freedom, permanent happiness from an impermanent source, you have to develop Vairagya or Viragasya Bhava or Viragaha towards all impermanent things, towards all Anitya Vastu. That is how you have to develop Vairagya. And for these Anitya Vastu, Acharya gives a new name. Iha Amutra Phalam. Iha means here in this life. Amutra means hereafter, which includes later lives also. Phalam means karma phalam, the results of one's own karmas. In the scriptures, the entire creation is said to have come into existence only for the sake of the jiva, the individual living being. The arrival of the world is not for the sake of Bhagavan or the world. According to Vedanta, the world has come into existence only because the jiva needs the world for going through different experiences in life to exhaust the sanchita karmas through prarabdha karmas in each life. Without the world, the experiences of pleasure and pain are not possible for the living beings. And of course, these experiences are determined by the jiva's past karmas. We have done many good and bad actions in several previous lives, and those karmas will have to give us pleasure or pain in one life or the other, because karma has to compulsorily produce karma phala. Therefore, in this life, we exhaust a part of those karma by having pleasurable and painful experiences. Therefore, our world, our surroundings, our situations, etc., are our own karma phalam only, our own doing only. That is why the physical world remaining the same, each individual jiva undergoes different experiences. And this karma phalam also we divide into two types. The karma phalam obtaining and fructifying in this current life. And there are innumerable other karma phalams which are waiting to fructify in future, either in the current life or in future lives. Next birth, next body, etc. are all dependent upon our own karma only, our own fructifying karmas. Therefore, this entire ephemeral creation, Acharya calls it Iha Amutra Phalam, the result of our own karma. So, we will see more. He says, Iha Amutra Phala Bhoga Viraga. We will continue to understand what he wants to say in the next class. Okay, I'll stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you all very much. I hope all of you have marked your attendance. If somebody has not done, please do so immediately before I close the recording.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದः ಗುರುಜಿ.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you, Guruji. Dhanyawada Mahodaya. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you. Thank you, Guruji.
Much. Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji.
Guruji.
Dhanyawada. Thank you.
Guruji,
Yeah. Tell me.
now
Hmm.
when we say, of course, what I am asking you may sound a little ridiculous.
No.
Thing is like this. When we say, okay, there is a date of birth, there is a date of death. The explanation what came about, that once somebody is gone, why lament and keep crying? Okay, that is fine. Understood. You cannot say, all right, the moment the body leaves the house, bye-bye, tata, there the matter ends. But when we are not able to perform their annual ceremonies, we feel so guilty. So if we can get detached that way, that means we should forget once and for all.
That's a very valid argument. But we must understand why we do it.
Okay.
Because we are still continuing in a Grihastha-ashrama.
Agreed.
Right?
Yes.
If you have gone to Sannyasa-ashrama, you will not perform.
Because there is no family. In case of sannyasa, there is no family.
They do?
There is no family in the case of sannyasa ashrama.
Correct. So, here, this Shraddham we are performing not because of our understanding whether it is permanent or impermanent. We are performing because the Veda Karma Kanda says you should do it. So, from a dharmic point of view, from a point of view of avoiding pratyavaya papam, pratyavaya dosham, that is a dosham which can come to you for non-performance, you do it. But let me just qualify that. If you are a Vedantic student or Vedantic practitioner, and if you have completely assimilated this fact that impermanent, permanent, all these things are all mithya. The entire world is mithya. Vedas themselves are mithya.
Okay.
Then no problem. You won't feel guilty and all that. Because in Bhajagovindam itself, Shankaracharya says, what family you are talking about, what kids you are talking about. You are claiming all them to be yours.
That's
Your
correct.
Amakara and Ahankara is there. They are not yours. So understand that. So there are two views from which we have to see this, because we are actually sitting in two boats. We have not completely removed ourselves from the Grihastha-ashrama, nor have we completely changed over to Vedanta. So this is a sort of a cusp we are in when we are understanding what Vedanta is. At this stage, all that we are saying is that you are studying, understanding what is Vedanta teaching is all about.
True.
We have not even gone to the stage where you are going to assimilate this knowledge to Maranam, Nididhyasanam and start abiding in that knowledge. So even as a Grihastha, you reach a stage where you actually abide in that knowledge. You did not even perform Sandhya Vandana Karma. The cosmic forces will release you from that responsibility because they will know that intellectually and from your own life point of view, you have completely assimilated the message of Aham Brahmasmi. That is the life that you are leading. So once that stage is achieved, irrespective of whichever ashrama you are, you did not perform, you will have no guilt feeling. But till we reach that stage, we will sail in two boats rather. But one boat is only understanding now, learning now. We are not even practitioners of Vedanta, right? When we understand Nitya, Anitya Vastu and all that, only when we practice that, the question of whether we should do Shraddha and all not come and all that. In fact, you won't believe, when I told one of the Swaminis, who is a student of Dayanand Saraswati, she is in London, she is running a small ashram there. When I told her, I was constantly in touch with her. When I told her that I am now developing keen interest on Vedanta and I want to go to the ashram and study, you know what she said? You can stop all your puja, everything and all that now itself. I said that my mind doesn't allow me to do that, right? I'm just going to enter. What is it all about, right? Till now, I'm believing I should do Sandhya Vandanam, I should do puja, I should do all these things. Suddenly, because you say I'm not going to stop all these things. But that was her reaction. But she has reached that stage. She has actually taken sannyasa and reached that stage. So for her, easy to say, don't do all these things. But our stage is not like that. We must understand that and continue to the extent. But one thing is there, I will certainly say, that you do it as a duty, right? As something which has been ordained in the Shastras, because you are a Shastric person, you want to follow, you do it. But suppose, for whatever reason, you are not able to perform that karma, don't feel guilty about it. First stage. There are circumstances, Ishvara did not want me to perform this karma. There is something which I am not able to understand. There are so many obstacles which have come in the performance of my karma. That obstacles are not my doing. Given an opportunity, I would have very happily performed that karma. But some obstacles came, and these obstacles have been created to prevent me from doing that karma. That is also part of the Ishvara's order. I will accept that as Ishvara Prasada, and then I will not have any guilty feeling for not performing that. That big difference will come when you understand this Vedanta. So you have deep into it a little more for this.
We are only in the seed stage now.
We are only in a very, very preliminary stage, rather. We must not suddenly jump to be a PhD level scholar.
That's what we are in the seed stage now.
Exactly. Seed stage.
Not even planted into
Not even planted. Yeah, the seed is just being planted. We are trying to first prepare the soil, right, through Karma Yoga. Then try to plant the Vedanta seed. Then see whether it sprouts or it doesn't sprout at all. It's a long journey. But if it is a prepared mind, if it is a prepared soil, the seed will very quickly sprout. So that is why
Oh,
this is important. This preparation of the mind is important.
Guruji, in this
Thank
connection,
you, Guruji.
particularly
Thank you.
Yeah,
about
yeah, Hariji.
in this
Yeah.
question, now if you look at Ramayana,
Mm.
then Sri Ram had performed the last rites of Ravana.
Mm.
So, which eventually means that these type of karmas are rather obligatory, that we cannot even, if a person at the level of Sri Ram was ready to do it, then
Yeah.
how can a person like me, avoid whatever may be, whether I am in the Grihastha or Vanaprastha or Sannyasa, how can I avoid?
What is the avatara of Sri Rama? First of all, you understand what is the Sri Rama avatara is all about. It is a Manushya avatar, right?
Okay.
Sri Rama lived his life not as a sannyasi. He lived a dharmic life as per the scriptures.
Yeah.
Why was that avatara created by by the cosmic forces? In order to guide all human beings. Take Rama as your ideal and follow that route.
Okay.
He has set an example for all of us. I mean, I will give you a very practical example. Puja Swamiji used to, in the ashram, there will be various pujas will be there. From a Puja Swamiji's point of view, he understands that everything, all this is ephemeral, impermanent, even the temple, everything. The only reality is Brahman. He understands it very well. Right? But he will still attend all the functions, all the pujas which are there in the temple, etc. Why? Will he have an attitude, oh, why should I attend all these things? I know I am Brahman. All this Saguna Brahma, Preeti and all is not for me. I only understand Nirguna Brahman. Puja Swamiji will not do. Why? Because we look upon these Mahatmas to set a certain guidance for us.
Example.
If Puja Swamiji says, I am not going to attend the temple, what we will say, when Puja Swamiji himself is not attending, why should I attend the temple? We will not understand what Puja Swamiji is. We will only understand what he does, and then we will use that as an excuse for us not to follow Dharma. That is why why Adi Shankara, what was the need for him to set up all these 4 months all over India? What was the need for Adi Shankara to write Saundarya Lahari and so many things? If you see Adi Shankara's work, there are Saguna Brahma works and Nirguna Brahma works. We are only studying the Vedanta part of it. We are not studying Saundarya Lahari.
He also performed
his mother's,
he also
and that too, he
mother's last rites, yes.
Exactly, he did. So,
Yeah.
if they don't do it, then we will all find
and he did it against
excuse not to do
he
it.
did it against the opposition. He did it against the opposition.
He did
from
against
the
opposition,
neighborhood.
but he used the plant and
Exactly.
this
Behind
thing,
his house.
and that burned rather because of his yoga shakti. He could make it burn to a dead body rather.
That's correct.
So we must never ask such questions. It only shows our ignorance. Why Rama did so, why we should also follow. Rama set an example. Rama himself, if you read Adhyatma Ramayana, have you read Adhyatma Ramayana? There Rama is presented as what? As Atma, Brahman. In his Swarupa form, Adhyatma Ramayana is there. So there are 2 Ramayanas. Valmiki Ramayana presents Rama as a human being with all failings of a human being. Whereas Adhyatma Ramayana presents Rama as the Brahman himself, as a Swarupa of Brahman. And Adhyatma Ramayana is actually a conversation between Shivan and Parvati. And
Oh.
she explains this whole thing about what is Ramavatara to Parvati in Vedantic terms. So there are so many things that we must understand and not get misguided by such questions. Go valid question, but we must think little more to understand why it is like that. That's what the answer is. Okay, Hariyom.
Thank you. Today is Adi Shankara Jayanti, is it? Today is Adi Shankara Jayanti.
Wait, 24th, no? Tomorrow. Or 23rd.
Somebody said 23rd. Today is all.
Somewhere 23rd, somewhere 24th it is there. In my mind, it is tomorrow, 24th.
Okay. Thank you very much, Guruji.
Okay,
Interesting.
Hariyom. Thank you.
Thank you, Hariyom.
Thank you, Hariyom. Yes, any other? Sulekha ji?
Hari Om Guruji.
Om, namaste.
Namaste. Thank you. Thank you for today's talk. I have 3 questions.
Yeah.
I'll read all 3 of them, and you can decide which to answer. The first, how do we practice Nitya Anitya, the discrimination between the discriminative process between the eternal and the ephemeral? I know you've discussed it with some examples.
Sorry, you go ahead.
Yes. The second question, what is the relationship between Nitya and Anitya? As we lessen our attachments to Anitya, does our knowledge of Nitya grow and deepen? And then the third question, as Nitya is visible to us in this world, these are our attachments to people, things, our attitudes. How can we understand and assimilate Anitya, the eternal, through these attachments or through these relationships? I'm sorry if these are
questions. See,
something you've already.
Fair enough. I'll just explain to you. See, what is our goal in life? Our goal in life is to be happy, correct? And is it just temporary happiness we are looking? We are looking at permanent happiness. We want always to be happy, right? Even one moment of unhappiness we do not want. Is that not, if that is not your goal, then the answer will not fit in. But I presume that all living beings, the goal is to be always happy. And we do so many things, all our actions, all our karmas, if you look at it, are aimed towards making us happy, happier, happiest kind of thing, right? We will not do anything knowing fully well, if I do this, it is going to cause me distress, it is going to cause me grief. I will not do that, isn't it? Right from even cutting your hand with a knife by mistake, you will not do that, right? So happiness is our goal, and permanent happiness is our goal. Now the question is, can you get permanent happiness from an impermanent source? You cannot, right? Impermanent source can probably give you impermanent happiness only, but not a permanent happiness. So is permanent happiness, the goal of permanent happiness, a myth? You cannot have such a goal. Is the next question. Vedanta says, no, you can have that goal. That is called moksha. That goal is called moksha. So you can legitimate, because that is one of the four purusharthas. The fourth purushartha is moksha purusha, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, right? That's a fourth purusha. So it's a legitimate goal of a human being to expect himself or herself to be permanently happy. And we also know that impermanent things cannot give you permanent happiness. But what is happening practically, we are all identifying ourselves with all the impermanent things around us, including ourselves, without understanding that they are impermanent. So there is no sadhana for Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka There is only understanding that we have to bring in our mind. Oh, this is impermanent. If I lose it, I should not cry. I should not be sorrowful. It is going to go anyway one day or the other. Today it has gone. That's all. So once you start training your mind like that, that is one aspect of this application of this understanding that these are all impermanent. As they say, typically even this will pass, right? So everything, every situation which either gives us happiness or gives us sorrow will all pass. They are not going to stay there permanently at all, rather. That understanding first we should have. So then we analyze everything around us. Everything we find is impermanent. We will see, oh, what a beautiful flower I have got in my garden. Right? Very nice, beautiful flowers. Next day, you go and see the condition of those flowers. They will all be like this. One day only their life, then finished. Right from that flower, if you look at this entire universe itself, we have seen pralaya and all that, right? Going from manifest to unmanifest, unmanifest to manifest and all that. The whole universe is impermanent. It is not going to last forever. So this is one aspect we must very clearly understand and apply it practically in our life. Question is then, what is permanent then? You are permanent. I am permanent. Not my body, mind, sense complex, but by what they call soul. Soul is not a correct definition. My Atma. That which actually is the electricity which is enabling my body, mind, sense complex to function, that is permanent. Whether I am in this body or in my next birth, I take some other body, an animal body, a plant body, whatever body I take, that is permanent. That is permanent right from my childhood to my death. Even after my death, that follows me, and whenever new birth I take, that continues. That will continue even when there is pralayam. That permanent, the Atma or Brahman will always be there. That is permanent. So, what the Vedanta's message is, disidentify yourself from impermanent things, identify yourself with permanent things, or the permanent thing. There's only one thing which is permanent, everything else is impermanent. Then you expect permanent happiness, you will get. This is how the whole thing is connected. So that is why Adi Shankara here in this sloka says, first thing is, before getting into sadhana chatushtaya, vairagya, shatka sampatti and all, first understand, your first requirement is understand the difference, what is permanent, impermanent. Don't expect any permanent results from impermanent things. It is not going to happen. If you expect it, you are deluded. You are, because of your delusion, your moha, you are expecting all these things from impermanent things. They cannot give that. They don't have it. It's a different matter, different question, whether the things do really have happiness or not. That's a different matter. But even assuming that they do possess a happiness to give you, it can at best be temporary happiness, not permanent happiness, which is my goal, which is moksha, goal of mine. That is what Vedanta is saying. Is that clear? Any more questions you can ask?
So I just have one more question then from that, and that is, as we learn to disidentify ourselves with impermanent things, including our own body, mind, sense complex, our relationships, our attachments, our attitudes, if we don't know what the permanent is, if we've never seen it, we never have experienced it, it can't be experienced because it is the substratum. How can we identify with the permanent? As we disidentify ourselves with the impermanent, then where are we at then? Do we exist? Do we not exist at that point?
In and through every impermanent thing, in and through every impermanent thing, there is permanent thing. The existence of the impermanent thing itself shows that there is a permanent thing which is the substratum of this impermanent thing. That is why I gave you the example of ease. When you speak, when you refer to the things, what do we say? I say a flask is, right? The verb is which we use, what is that verb? What does that verb indicate? When I say flask is, mobile phone is, towel is, shirt is, my specs is, or specs are, whatever it is, there is, what is the common in all these sentences?
Existence.
Because the words like flask, mobile phone, specs, towel, shirt, they are all different words. Correct? I'm not referring to the same thing, but there is something common between all these. What is that?
Existence.
Existence. So understand from this example that existence is permanent. All other things are temporary. A flask may change its name and shape, but the easiness will not go away. It will still continue to exist. So that existence is there in and through every impermanent thing. Any impermanent thing, we will always refer to as existing. Even if it is not existing, we say that the person is dead, so he is not existing. That is a wrong statement. Because when the person, living person dies, it becomes a dead body. Dead body is. When we burn the dead body, it becomes ash. The ash is. So that easiness doesn't go away at all. Suppose the ash becomes something. I mean, I'm just saying. We use the ash to make some doll or something like that. I'm just giving you an example. We'll say the doll is. So the easiness, the existence doesn't go away at all. It is only the name and form keeps on changing. Once we understand this, think through this and understand, I am also, my body, mind, sense complex will change, but the easiness of me will not change. In any other form, I will be also ease, or I am will be there, right? That easiness is one aspect of Sat, Chit and Ananda. The Sat aspect of Sachidananda is that easiness, or what you call the existence. Similarly, we will come to, when we come to Chit aspect, the consciousness aspect, we will see that that is also, we will similarly prove that consciousness exists. How do we understand that there is consciousness exists? Because we can't see consciousness, but we can experience consciousness through and in and through the experience of all sentient beings. It is because of the consciousness that I, when I am living, I am able to speak, I am able to do all action. When that consciousness stops reflecting in my body, mind, sense complex, then I become a dead body. The consciousness has actually stopped reflecting, because these are all in Tattva Bodha, we saw that. Little more I have to explain, but I think this class is the time, it will take one whole class to explain that, which will come. In any case, all these explanations will come as we see the further, we are only in qualification now. We have not even come to the essential essence of Vedanta, which will all come. We will see all that. Okay. Don't worry. Yeah. Any other question?
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands going up right now. So probably there are no questions. So we will stop here and continue in the next class. Okay. Thank you. Hari Om, everybody.
Thank you.
Guruji. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Pranam.
Thank you.
Hari Om.